We're live.
Well, hello.
We're back at you. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Doing well. How was your weekend, young lady?
It was awesome.
That's all I'm getting. It was awesome and stop and
It was awesome. It was relaxing. It was like,
It's an hour show now. You're gonna have to give me more than one liner. Stay with me over here, girl. Come on now.
I'm here. I had 2 cups of coffee this morning. I am here.
I'm jealous. I just got back from Houston. I'm dying over here, but my coffee's on its way. It's coming.
I hear it brewing.
Is it?
I don't know.
You smell it?
No.
So we got another voice behind us. Did you hear that? I know you heard that other laugh, and that was not me. I promise you,
it wasn't me either.
It could have been. He wouldn't have.
I mean, you never know.
She got a cold or something.
I've heard stranger things.
Well, Leah, come on. Oh my goodness, Latoya.
Oh,
Latoya.
You're preoccupied.
Leah's my baby. Anyway,
Yeah.
Latoya. Wow, this started off really bad. So Latoya, who's this gentleman next to me?
This is Troy Thomas with At Ease Home Inspections. We have an inspector here today to kind of talk about the ins and outs of inspections, home inspections, and what to expect and what to be alarmed about, what not to be alarmed about, what's important, what's not important, all of this stuff.
There's something unimportant about an inspection?
No, everything's important when it comes to inspection.
Well,
Yeah.
what's not so big of a deal?
I don't know, man.
It's so much to it.
Let me say this. As a home inspector that I see homes on a daily basis,
Okay.
there's always going to be a list of things.
Yes.
Some things are going to be important
Mhm.
and some things are going to be less important.
Absolutely.
That's
Now,
what I meant.
what I will say
There it
is I always leave that up to the client to
There you go.
determine.
There you go.
I want to make sure that they're informed and that they know about what I'm seeing and what's going on with the house. But whether or not it's a top priority, that's something for them to decide.
Absolutely.
Now, normally for me, I will give them a list of what I think is important as an inspector.
Nice.
Normally at the end of my reports, last page, sometimes last 2 pages, I'll put on there what I think is important.
Mhm.
But I always ask my clients to go through the entire report because sometimes they may see things that they consider to be more important than what I've put emphasis on.
Absolutely.
So that's something that I always want to make sure the client's aware of.
It's always perception, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So before we dive right in, Troy, why don't you tell them a little about yourself, tell them about your company,
Sure.
and then like I said, we're gonna get him today. We're picking this man's brain.
Oh, yeah.
Everything inspection you're gonna know today.
Yes.
Well, that's the intent. That's why I'm here. For me, we've been in business since February the 5th of 2008,
Okay.
to be exact. Been doing business, literally have done thousands of inspections throughout the Dallas-Fort Worth
I
Metroplex.
saw an interesting little wave there.
Yeah. You know, when I came in, actually, the business was going on a downturn.
Yeah.
So I built my business at that time frame, which
Nice.
was really more difficult than it would be today starting. But hey, it was something that God put on my heart because I was coming out of the mortgage industry from a business that had failed.
Mhm.
I was actually a mortgage underwriter, and the company that I worked for had closed their doors.
Yeah.
So go figure, I go and decide to start another mortgage business. So I don't know if that's faith or crazy, but that's what we did. So started the business, built it from the ground up, and here we are today. Fortunately, it's not just me. I have my son working with me as well. So the two of us are both working the business, trying to build it even more because I got another son coming up down the road.
Here we
So
go.
We're trying to make this a family
It's
thing.
always good when you keep it a family.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
The one thing you can trust is family.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's great we have this show because I think the inspection is probably the most misunderstood thing in this whole process. I think everybody pretty much knows what the title company is.
Right.
Drop off someone, they know they don't take their money. That's the one thing they know, right?
Yeah.
But then they know there's you and they pay you. And they're like, why are we paying this guy?
Mm-hmm.
Latoya and I had a show based about the buyers. That was our first show, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about the inspection, of course, is like knowing what you buy when you put as is.
Mhm.
As is one thing that we see and perceive, but as is a different thing for you.
Mhm.
Can you explain what exactly you do, what exactly you're looking for? I mean, we kind of touch base on what's important, what's not, but what exactly you look for when you come to a home?
Well, here's what I always try and tell my clients. The inspection will consist of the house from rooftop to foundation and literally everything in between.
Okay.
So when it comes to the electrical panel, I'm going to take the cover off. I'm going to look at the wiring inside, take a look at the sheeting that's on the wiring, which is the coating that's covering it. Make sure there's no signs of bubbling or overheating or discoloration from the wiring. That's looking for signs of overheating, like I said, or sparking or something along those lines. Make sure that the breakers are working fine. Make sure that the wires that are attached to the breakers, they're properly sized and matched to the breakers that they're attached to.
Before you go too far.
Yeah.
Well, Toya, you're a good realtor, right? You're gonna take down that panel, look behind there to see if there's anything wrong with the wires.
Yeah, I'm scared.
Yeah, I don't
want
think
the shock of my life to
thinking,
come.
you know,
Like
yeah.
I stay in my lane.
We love you.
Yeah.
We love them.
Yeah.
We do love our clients, right?
Hey,
and I'll go as look. We're gonna look at a cosmetic view of the house.
Yes.
You know, we're gonna look for a crack in the roof.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why it's important to have an inspection.
Exactly.
I mean, whether you use at ease home inspections or whomever, it's always important to get an inspection. And like I said, we want to dig into everything. Like you were saying, you look at the cosmetic things, and as a potential buyer, that's what they're looking at. They fall in love with the cosmetics of the house.
Absolutely.
But it's my job to make sure that it's just not a pig with lipstick.
There you
I
go.
want to make sure
You're not getting lemon.
Exactly. I
Get a
want to
lemon.
make sure that the house is sturdy. It's going to stand the test of time. Make sure that everything's in good working order. Or if something's not, as an inspector also, I believe that more often than not, we pay for ourselves when we come out. In the fact that we find something that's wrong with the house that the potential buyer didn't know and gets an opportunity to get it fixed.
Exactly.
Or that the potential seller can drop on the price so that they don't have to fix it, but then the potential buyer can fix it down the road.
I think it's important to say this.
Yeah.
It's not the seller's hiding things. In most cases,
No,
there are
no.
some that are.
Yeah,
But
but
there are some that
no.
are.
Yeah.
But let's just talk in the good nature, people.
Mhm.
They're not going to take down the panel either,
Yeah.
right? Like,
No,
they don't know.
they don't know.
They only see what they see,
Mhm.
and that's why when they put ads in that box, they give us a seller's disclosure,
Mhm.
and they're disclosing what they know.
Exactly.
Right.
And then we
Exactly.
hire you,
Right.
and you tell us what we don't know.
Exactly.
Right.
What you don't know, what they don't know, and hopefully what we can get resolved before they buy the house.
And then
Absolutely.
I do have a question though,
Yeah.
because this has been an issue I saw in the closing where the closing go through because of aluminum wires,
Mhm.
right? And that's a new thing that insurance companies are not covering aluminum wires. Can you explain a little bit about why that's important?
Yeah, aluminum wiring. Back in the 60s and 70s, they started using aluminum wiring because it was cheaper to use than copper. Okay, but what we didn't know was that the aluminum wiring at the attachment, at the light switch or at the receptacle where you plug in, the wiring would expand and contract, and then it come loose. And so then when it came loose, it became a fire hazard. And then you'd have an issue.
Yeah.
So now there are a couple of things you can do when you have a situation like that, a house that has aluminum wiring in it. You can do the most expensive thing, which is rewire the entire house.
Yes.
And that's a healthy cost.
And I don't know if it's a seller that's going to
Yeah,
say,
yeah, yeah.
I'm just going to
Most
rewire the
people-
house for you.
Yeah.
Most people aren't going to do that.
It's grandfathered into them.
Yeah.
Hey, I bought it this way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a cheaper way of fixing it, which is still just as good, is what's called piggybacking. And what piggybacking is where the aluminum wire attaches to the receptacle, you take it apart, take it loose, attach a copper wire to it, and then attach the copper wire to the receptacle or to the light switch.
That makes
So again,
sense.
that's called piggybacking, and that's a more common way of fixing the problem.
That makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, that's a good source when it comes to the electricity and the aluminum wiring. Also, with aluminum wiring at the panel, you want to make sure it has what's called antioxidant on it.
Okay.
Normally, it's like a gray paste. It sort of looks like toothpaste. Okay, but you put it on it, and it allows it to contract the electricity a lot better. So that's one thing that you want to make sure of. Now, when it comes to the aluminum wiring, now sometimes even with a brand new house today, you can go to a house and it will have aluminum service wiring coming into the
I've seen
house.
that, yes.
Okay, now that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and the reason is because the problem is normally the attachment for the wiring. And the attachment is what allows it to come loose. But at the service entrance, the attachment is so strong, you don't have that problem. Okay, so that's part of that's why sometimes you'll still see aluminum coming in the service.
And I'm assuming pretty soon that disclosure is going to be around. I mean, and the funny thing is, I don't think most homeowners even know if it's aluminum, right? Until you get out there.
Yeah. I mean,
but I assume eventually they're going to have, Trekking Their Great Wisdom will put out a disclaimer that says, I have aluminum wires in this house. I assume it's coming because it's become an issue now for the insurance companies.
Right.
So if it's an issue for them, it's an issue for us. Another
Exactly.
thing, since we're on electricity, GCFI, and I'm really talking, and the new homes are always going to have it, but you see that's one thing you see a lot in the older homes that don't have it. Can you explain the importance of why that GCFI is there?
Well, here's what I always try and tell my clients when it comes to GFCIs.
Oh, a GFCI.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No.
See, look, that's why we got here.
GFCI stands for ground fault circuit interrupter. Okay, the purpose of it is to protect you from getting electrocuted. Ideally, you want to have it in a minimum of 3 locations. You want to have it in kitchens, bathrooms, and exterior outlets. Technically, again, the idea is to prevent you from getting electrocuted in case there's a problem with the flow of electricity. You're right near a kitchen sink or in a tub. Back in the 60s and 70s, somebody was taking a bath, they listened to the radio, it falls in the tub, you would get electrocuted. Well, now because of GFCIs, that doesn't happen anymore. It shuts the power off to the outlet, so then therefore there is no electricity. So everything is safe at that point. So that's the purpose of it, is for protection, preventing you from getting electrocuted. Those are the places that you need to have them. Again, kitchens, bathrooms, exterior outlets. Ideally, when it first came out, the idea was within 6 feet of water. But by today's standards, now we require it to be like in a kitchen. Every receptacle in the kitchen should be GFCI now.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Okay.
Now you mentioned new homes. Do you do inspections on new homes, or should people get inspections on these built from the ground up homes? A lot of people ask, and a lot of people say, well, you should, and some people say you shouldn't. You don't have to, but what is your take on it?
Well, when it comes to a personal choice, as a potential buyer, you always have the choice as to not get an inspection. Okay, that's always the choice.
Yes.
My personal opinion, not just because I'm an inspector, but even before I was an inspector, whenever I purchased a home, I always got it inspected. Now, with a brand new home, I still say yes, you need to have it inspected. And the reason, no such thing.
Maybe they're perfect.
No such thing.
I've never saw a perfect builder in my life, and I've dealt with a lot of them.
I'm gonna tell you something. You'd be surprised how many times I go into a brand new built home and we have major issues. I've had rafters and attics weren't connected. I've had water pressure dropping, not being what it's supposed to be. I've had which this is not uncommon for a drain to be stopped up because it's a construction site. So a lot of times things fall down. So that's not uncommon. But I mean, it's still something that had you not known moving in, it'd be an issue for you to deal with.
And why it's better to get them to do it before you move in.
Exactly.
After. They move fast before you sign that paperwork.
Exactly.
You're the VIP. You come out, it's like, coming to America, flowers thrown in while you walk in the house. Then you buy it and you're like, we'll get to you. We'll put you in work order.
We'll put you on the list.
We'll get to you.
2 years. We'll get to you in 2 years when your warranty is over.
Now the thing about that, mention warranty.
I
heard you. They're not bad. Look, we're
not
not
all
going to be
bad.
on
It was a
this
joke.
show. Look,
It was a joke. I'm
We're
not serious. They're good about it.
Now, look, in regards to the warranty, the home warranty, when you have a brand new build, you also have that 1 year warranty, which a lot of times clients will call on the 11th month and say, hey, can you come do my inspection because my warranty is just about up? So that's a good opportunity at that point in time to do it as well.
Absolutely. But if you want to wait till the inspection, that might work too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I say you want to do it both times.
Yeah,
I say you want to do it both. Yeah.
Awesome.
So.
Okay, and that's another thing that I saw interesting about inspections is you guys check appliances. And I think that's nice. But especially in a used home, I think that's even double benefit. And can you explain why you guys are so interested in the appliances? Which to me, it's weird. We said it's an adjusting role when I was an insurance adjuster. Whatever you can turn upside down the house, if it fell down, was considered personal property. But you guys consider it real property, which is a bit different. But explain that. Why do you guys care about appliances?
Well, I mean, I don't know about you, but somebody in my house is cooking all the time. So I want to make sure that my range is working. And, if I'm cooking, I might burn something. So I want to make sure my venter hood is working so it can suck all the burnt smoke out, So all these appliances are things that we use on a daily basis, a garbage disposal, if you have a sprinkler system, even sprinkler system, water heater, heating and air conditioning. In Texas, if your air conditioner is not working, you want to know before the heat comes.
Amen.
Because if that heat comes around and all of a sudden you find out it doesn't work, it's too late.
Some type of
And then the cost for fixing that is not cheap. So these are the reasons why, when it comes to appliances, things that we want to use on a daily basis, things that we want to make sure that is being in use, is working properly. If there's an issue with it, we want to make sure that we can let the potential buyer know about that prior to moving into the house. Now, a lot of times, especially when you're buying a used house, they'll think to themselves, oh, well, I'm going to replace all that. And that's fine and dandy. But sometimes when you get into the house and you realize how much money you had to spend to get into the house, it's like, well, maybe I can hang on to this for a while. And if you don't inspect it and know how that's working, then you may be forced to do something then in regards to replacing it, as opposed to being able to hang on to it for 6 months or a year.
So let's go a little bit deeper. So we focus on electricity, and you talk about the Raptors earlier, and you guys do get up there, man. And I look, as an ex-insurance adjuster, I know the hell of getting up there. So I do thank you for getting up there. What exactly are you looking at when you go in the attic? What are you looking for? What are the things that you care about?
Sure. Okay. Now, here's the main thing. Now, here's the main thing we want to look for when we're up there. We want to look at the structure of the roof, make sure that it's structurally sound. We want to look at the sheathing and look for any signs of discoloration on the sheathing, which could give us evidence of possible water penetration. These are the things that we're looking for. We want to make sure that everything is solid and sturdy, properly attached. We want to look for insulation, make sure you have proper insulation. If you have vertical insulation, sometimes that vertical insulation falls down. Sometimes it's missing. Those are types of things that we want to point out, because that's an opportunity for your coolant inside your house to be escaping when you're trying to cool your home down. So all these are the things that we're going to be looking for. And a lot of times also you're going to have your furnace up in the attic as well. So you want to look for signs of look at that as well.
I do want to know who in the great genius thought that shredded newspaper would be great insulation.
What?
It's out there.
Yeah, it is out there.
Wow.
The most flammable thing that you can find.
Yeah.
Are you serious? We use it to light fires. So why would you want to
I have
light
seen it
a
as
fire?
an adjuster and was like, you've got to be kidding me.
I don't know where that thought came from.
So since we're talking about insulation,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on the what is it, fiberglass insulation or newspaper versus the spray on?
I even saw that. Spray on is a
You
newer
mean-
concept. You talking about the
You know
foam?
the
You mean the
foam.
ray-
You
yeah.
know the
Oh,
spray,
that's
the
spray. Oh, yeah.
foam
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Hey.
That's fantastic.
I don't mind not knowing if it's not my
Yeah,
job,
yeah.
but you know, hey,
you got a good day.
foam
Yeah,
is
you got a good day.
awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
That's-
I mean, it because it
Give 'em a hug.
seals.
Give 'em a
Because
hug.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. What it does is it spreads out and gets into those corners and crevices that normally you wouldn't necessarily get to. So that foam is fantastic.
Now that is more expensive
Yeah,
than the
it
fiber.
is.
That I do know.
Uh-huh.
It's more expensive.
And
But over time, it's going to save you money.
Oh yeah.
and energy efficient like crazy. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
The one thing though, it does lock in the heat. So in the winter, I mean, some of that heat is coming in, which is perfect. In the summer, it'll be different, but in the winter, it's perfect.
Well, but the thing about it is, ideally, it's supposed to insulate it, and it's supposed to be. It's more often than not when I see the spray on, the attics are a lot cooler.
Okay.
A lot cooler. So they maintain the temperature a lot better than if it had just the regular blow-in insulation or the roll-on Pink Panther style insulation. So that's great.
Pink.
Yeah, that's what we're commercial.
That's what I remember.
Yeah.
I remember that.
He used to do the commercials, you
And it
know.
was pink too, like Pepto-Bismol pink.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, that spray on insulation is really good.
And
It's
I'm
a
gonna
good product.
give a disclaimer as an ex-ingester. Don't turn off the fans. I don't know why people tie them. Who taught them that was a good idea? Because they always forget in the summer to untie the fans upstairs. And it pulls that. They do that because in their mind they feel that when it's blowing, it's going to cool the house in the winter, and they don't want it to be cool. But the purpose of that fan up there is to pull the heat out.
Yeah.
It circulates the air.
When
Now, if you have a power
when you
fan,
say fan, just so we're clear, you're talking in terms of the turbines.
Yeah, the turbines.
The wind turbines that are up there
Yeah.
that rotates based on the blowing of the wind.
and the power vents too.
Exactly. You do have some that are power operated.
And the power vents, they're good to have timers.
Mhm.
And I love that.
Well,
I love
not
the
necessarily timers. What they'll do, a lot of times they'll have a temperature gauge.
Yeah.
So when the temperature in the attic reaches a certain temperature, let's say 90 degrees, it'll
kick
come
in.
on automatically and then pull all the heat out.
But when I say the timer, I've seen some with the timer, it in the daytime kick on, in the nighttime it would take off, and the daytime go back on. It gauges. It's just, and they set it. I mean, it's a manual setting. But I saw people added. I'm like, that's pretty intelligent.
Yeah.
Now that I can work with.
Right.
But do not stop that flow of air
Mhm.
because there's something called when we get on a roof, and you start that. We know what time it is. I mean, you got to remember it's wood, and it's the wood is decking, and that decking with everything else contracts.
Yeah.
And if it's sweating, anyway, that's just a little side note. Don't do it.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. You say that in regards to what homeowners will do. A lot of times, too, this sort of changing the subject, the weep holes on the exterior of homes, when you have a brick home, I've seen a lot of times homeowners will go in there and say, oh, well, I don't want insects in my house. So what they'll do is they'll take some caulk or they'll take some thin set
Don't do it.
or mortar and fill it in. And the purpose of a weep hole is to allow moisture an opportunity to escape out. And
hole.
It's there so it can weep.
Weep.
Because if inevitably moisture will get behind the brick.
Of course.
And so when it does, it has to have somewhere to go. That's what
Yeah.
the weep hole is designed for. Now, when you seal that up, The only place for that moisture to go is to get absorbed into the wood that's in the walls of your home. And when wood reaches a percentage of about 18% moisture, it starts to break down.
Mm-hmm.
It's going.
It's not termites either. It's
Yeah.
your decay.
Exactly. Yeah. It's basically water damage at that point.
Okay.
And I like that we're taking each part one by one by one. I do like that. We've talked about electricity.
Yeah.
Now we've talked about the inside. Let's talk about the outside. Let's
Sure.
talk about the roof.
Right.
What do you look for in the roof? And give your perspective, and then I'll give them. I do go my roofs.
Okay.
Only because I was an inspector,
Right.
and I'm very good on knowing, hey, this one probably is going to be covered.
Mhm.
And I doggone sure I want my homeowner buying a home that can be covered on an insurance policy to get a brand new roof. I
Right.
don't want them to do that. Let them do that.
Yeah.
That's what their insurance is for, right?
Well,
So explain what you do.
Well, from my perspective, what I don't want to do, I don't want to overstep my bounds, and what I mean by that is I'm not going to say what will be what will be insured and what won't be.
Absolutely.
But what I will do is I'll tell you what condition your roof is in. If I think it has hail damage, if it has an excessive amount of granule loss, if you have exposed nail heads, if you have windblown shingles, if you have flashing out of place, any penetration coming through the roof, you want to make sure it's properly flashed.
Right.
Because if it's not,
sagging shingles.
yeah, exactly. Any waviness in the roof. With the chimney that's wider than, let's say, 30 inches, you want to make sure you have what's called a cricket/saddle in front of it. And what that is basically is a peak in front of the chimney so that when it rains, the rain can run around the chimney as opposed to sitting and settling directly in front of it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when you don't have that cricket inside the house or inside the attic, you'll see evidence of water penetration because that water is going to sit there for a while. And when it sits there for a while, it's going to find a way into the house. So that's why you want to have that cricket. But yeah, on the rooftop, we want to look at the condition of the shingles. We want to look at and make sure, see how many layers of shingles we have. We want to take a look and see if the
underlay.
I'm sorry?
If they have shake underlay.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or you want to take a look at the
I thought that was a good idea. All these things
it happens. You know what it
Gonna
is?
do.
Someone didn't want to take the cost of clearing it off. That's more than likely what it was. But also you want to look at the underlayment for the shingles. You want to make sure that it goes over the drip edge as opposed to under the drip edge. And the reason a lot of times people don't understand why that's important, but the reason is because inevitably moisture will get under the shingles, and when it does, it's going to roll down that felt paper. And so if that felt paper is underneath the drip edge, then the moisture is going to go down to the bottom of the roof decking. And then that roof decking is going to absorb moisture over time and become decayed.
And although it's not a big deal here in Texas, because I mean that probability of blizzard is so rare. Water dam. You heard what a water dam is?
A water dam?
Yeah, that's when you have a lot of ice and it melts.
Yeah.
Now it's probably something we'll never deal with, but it's something also I know you guys will look for.
Right. Well,
in the rare case that actually happens.
Well, for me, again, that's why it's important when we're in the attic. That's what we're looking for, any signs of that. We're looking for any signs where water has penetrated, and water damming will cause water penetration into the attic space. So that, for me, from my perspective, I'm going to be looking for that more so in the attic than I will on the rooftop, because on the rooftop, I'm not going to necessarily be able to see if the water is going to actually be penetrating at that point. But yeah, what I will look for are signs where it can hold water. If we're, for instance, we have a slope on a roof and then the pitch of the roof changes where it looks like it can hold some water, then that's something that can be an issue. If it's not properly slanted away, then we're going to always be able to hold water. So that's something that we don't want.
And let's talk about depreciation of the roof. And I only say that because in covering a roof, the roof has a lifespan. Let's go with 20 year, which is now pretty much obsolete.
Yeah.
It's gone. So you're looking at 25, 30, 50, and they call 50 lifetime. So saying that, explain how that affects you in an inspection when you look at it, why that's important for them.
I'll be honest with you. When it comes to looking at a roof, it doesn't matter to me what the life expectancy of the roof is, because that's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is its current condition, so that I can explain it to my client and let them know what I think about its current condition. Because like you said, if it's a 20-year roof and it's been up there for 5 years, you think, oh, well, you got 15 years. Not necessarily.
No.
Because if we've had
if
we've had a lot of hail damage, if you know,
nature.
yeah, exactly, wind blown shingles, all that stuff plays a part in it. So
Absolutely.
that's why it doesn't matter to me what the life expectancy of the roof is when it was originally installed. What matters to me is its current condition when I'm looking at it.
Right.
Okay.
Now we talked about a little earlier gutters,
Mhm.
like gutters on the home. I went to an inspection class and I didn't know that gutters weren't
Required.
required
Yeah,
on a
yeah.
home.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
if you look at most houses, believe it or not, don't have it.
Mhm.
Especially brand new builds.
Oh yeah.
What
It's an added cost.
what a builder would do is they'll put it up on the entry points,
Mhm.
where at your front door they'll
Mhm.
put it up there, at your back door they'll put it up there, and over your outside AC units a lot of times
Yeah.
they'll put up a diverter.
Yeah.
They won't put a little slant
Yeah.
piece of metal that is like an L shape.
Mhm.
It slides underneath the shingles and it's just up there on the rooftop to divert water away from falling onto the outside air conditioning
Mhm.
or the condenser. So gutters aren't required. However, as an inspector, I do always put on there that I do recommend gutters be installed, but I don't look at that as a deficiency not to have it.
Okay.
Okay.
The gutters are more of a lux. No, I wouldn't say they. To me, they are a necessity.
They're almost
for
like
foundation.
screens on
And
the
it's
home.
funny because you'll see when water hits, it starts making this little
The
grease
groove.
and the groove there,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the water starts settling there.
Uh-huh,
Which is not what
exactly.
you want.
Yeah.
But you're right; it's not a requirement. It's
Mhm.
never been. But
Yeah.
but good question.
Yeah.
Good question. So let's go deeper now. So we've focused on the roof. We focused on electricity. We focused on the attic.
Mhm.
What else do you look for when you're going? And we focused on the property inside the home via appliances.
Right.
So what else are you looking for when you're walking through a home?
Well, one thing we haven't talked about is the foundation.
There you go.
Oh
Okay.
yeah. I was
Yeah.
just about to say.
So,
Welcome to
in Texas, with our
Ooh.
soil and our temperatures, we normally
Jeez.
have two types of foundations. You have foundations that have had problems and
Mhm.
those that will. It's only a matter of time. Now, depending on how well someone takes care of their foundation and waters around it and keeps it moist, will obviously add to its longevity. But the minute someone stops taking care of their foundation or watering it, it's only a matter of time. So foundation is something that I'm going to be looking for. On the exterior of the home, we're looking for cracks. What I also like to look at is if I see what I consider to be a decent sized crack on the exterior of the home, when I get on the interior, I want to look on that same wall to see if I see a correlating crack on the inside.
Mhm.
When it comes to the windows, a lot of times what you'll see is, let's say for instance, it was a brick home, you see the brick starting to separate away from the window and doing what I call V'ing out.
Mhm.
And what that means is at the bottom, it's really close, but as it goes up, it starts to open up even more.
Mhm.
So that's something that lets us know that your house is leaning one way or the other. So that's something that you want to address. So the foundation is a big item. A lot of times for me, I take measurements inside the house to make sure it's nice and level, because sometimes you can walk a house and it can feel relatively decent. But when you take that measurement, a lot of times you'll see, oh, well, this is off a little bit, and now, again, in Texas, and especially when you're dealing with an older home, sometimes you're going to have some variances. Having variances is not a big deal as long as it's not too much. For me as an inspector, I'm okay up to 3/4 of an inch. Now, once I reach 3/4 of an inch or more, that's when I start saying, okay, I'm going to err on the side of caution for my client, and I want to recommend a structural engineer come out and take a look at it. Structural engineer, foundation company, it's your choice, preferably a structural engineer. Okay,
Right.
so that's when it comes to the foundation. Now, when I get inside, you can find, okay, if I take measurements and I'm off by a 1/2 inch, I'm normally going to be okay with that, because again, we're going there.
Welcome to
When you
Texas.
first
Right.
pour a foundation, honestly, there is no such thing as a perfectly level foundation. There's always going to be some variances.
And then you have settlement too.
Exactly. So then when you add to that additional flooring, when you add to that time, whether or not someone's taking care of the foundation, all those things play a part in that. So that's why, again, I'm okay for a certain amount of variance, but it still has to be within tolerance. And again, that 3/4 of an inch is my tolerance level.
And
So
let's talk about the two. And there's more than two, but the two common. You have your pier and beam, and the most common now is slab.
Slab,
And
right.
in both scenarios,
Uh-huh.
I mean, you've got the same variances, but one seems to last just a little bit longer in your pier and beam.
Well,
A little bit longer.
well, the thing about a pier and beam, though, it's a lot easier to fix.
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
because you can just
Jack it
jump,
up.
yeah, exactly.
Jack it
Just
up.
dig up, crawl underneath the house, and if you got to add additional pier, just dig it down, put it in, and build up from there. So it's a lot easier. But with a slab foundation, you got to actually bust through the concrete,
Yeah.
or if it's on the exterior of the home, you got to dig down below the foundation and then dig underneath the foundation. And so then someone's sitting in that hole underneath the foundation.
Ooh.
When another guy is in the house on a walkie-talkie saying, hey, hole number 1, you got to raise yours a 1/4 of an inch. Hole number 3, you got to raise yours a 1/2 inch. You know, and someone's down there jacking the house. So yeah, that's a little more entail than the pier and beam foundation being fixed.
So we've seen in the foundations, there are some homes that are built with the metal
Post tension cables.
Yes, and then some are wood. So what's the difference?
Wood.
You know, when it's the frame of the home, some are metal frames and some are wood frames.
Okay, you're talking about in the walls?
Yes.
Okay. Now we're talking about the studs in the wall then.
As well, right?
The studs in the wall?
Studs, the framing, all of that. That doesn't have anything to do with
No. That sits
the shifting of the home.
No, normally that will sit on a seal plate, which is attached to the foundation. Now the foundation itself is going to shift regardless of be it metal or wood. That doesn't play a part in it. That just gets moved around based on this foundation.
Yeah, because I've heard some say that with the metal beams, like wood frames are better than the metal because the wood can give and the metal just doesn't give.
Yeah.
There's no give in it.
But
so
now,
does that,
but keep in mind, we're in my opinion, I believe we're talking about two different things, because when we're talking about the foundation, we're just talking about the shifting of it. But now when you're dealing with the studs in the wall, you know, that's a different thing. Now, whether or not it's going to give with the wood, obviously, you know, wood will move a little easier because more often than not you're dealing with like 2x4s, 2x6s, like that. So that's more often going to move a little bit more than, let's say, if for instance, if you had an I-beam. God knows if you had an I-beam, that thing's not going anywhere. It's not moving for no reason. Yeah, exactly.
and I ask these questions because a lot of people don't know this.
Right,
I don't know it because it's not my area.
Yeah.
A lot of people wonder, like, is there a difference between the two? And a lot of people associated with the foundation of the home and with the home shifting. So
And I think I know what you're talking about. You see this construction not in Mexico, but it was true brick. So they were doing these big cinder bricks, and they would put metal rods that were in the middle of these big holes in the brick.
Oh yeah.
And they would put the cement on there and put more cement on there. But here typically you see the wood framing goes in and then they build the house up. I mean, really, I would say it's masonry. It's more like it's more cosmetic than anything else.
Yeah, it's an exterior.
It's not doing anything. So,
it's actually called the cladding. So it can either be brick, it can be wood, it can be stone, it can be a combination of all three. Yeah, exactly. Vinyl, right? Exactly. But yeah, that's attached, and you attach normally the bricks to the studs in the wall with what I call brick ties, and that's a little metal strip that's probably about an inch wide, probably about 3 to 4 inches, maybe longer, about 5 or 6 inches long, and it attaches to the stud in the wall, and then you mortar it into the brick, so that holds the brick in place. Because what you don't want to do is walk up to a brick home and push the wall, and it waves at you.
all that.
So that would be the problem when it comes to a brick wall. You know, you don't want to see that. That would mean someone didn't use brick ties. Okay. Yeah. So,
and then moving forward, so now we've identified foundation, which you already said is a problem. But we forgot about the one piece that's underneath that foundation and built inside that foundation, the plumbing.
Plumbing.
So let's talk about, because with massive foundation movement, the next spear is how's the plumbing.
Right.
When you're looking at your most expensive fixes being plumbing, foundation, roof.
Yeah.
That's why I usually look at those three first. And if there's anything major with those, we got a problem.
Right.
You know, if there's nothing major with those, and everything else is pretty much cosmetic to me. You know, so what about your take on plumbing and foundation when it moves like that? What are you looking for?
Well, that's another reason why pier and beams are great, because if you got a plumbing issue with a pier and beam, it's really easy to fix. You just get under there and just fix the plumbing. No big deal.
Chase off the raccoon that's underneath there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or the cat that's taking out.
Hopefully it's not a snake or anything worse.
It would be there.
Hey, they're there, and you're gonna get run across the spiders too. But now, when it comes to a slab foundation, and you've had foundation work or foundation problems, once the foundation's been repaired, you definitely want to make sure that you get someone out to do a pressure test on the plumbing system, and that will confirm the fact that you don't have any type of leak anywhere, and that's what you want to do. Now, plumbing just in general, Ideally, you want to have your water pressure come in no higher than 80 psi.
Okay.
Minimum acceptable water pressure is 40. Maximum recommended is 80.
Okay.
And the reason 80 is the maximum recommended is because most plumbing systems are designed to withstand water pressure up to 80 psi. Okay. So, but now with that being said, I've seen houses that had at 120.
Good Lord.
So, and the homeowners loved it, didn't want to do anything about it because they love the pressure from the shower.
That's like a whirlpool.
Yeah, exactly.
So then going further with that, you said the water pressure test, but I also see that you guys gauge temperature also.
Yeah.
What's the importance of the temperature?
Well, we don't want it to scald, but the thing about that is you can always adjust the temperature on your water heater. If you have small children in your home, a lot of times you'll find that the water temperature is down lower because kids sometimes can turn water on, and they may even turn it on accidentally when they're in the tub. And then that hot water, if it's too hot, you can scald the children. So for that reason, you want to always make sure that it doesn't get too hot. You don't want it to adjust. Now, speaking along those lines, nowadays we have on water heaters what are called temperature pressure relief valves. Okay. Now, the purpose of the temperature pressure relief valve is
TP valve.
Exactly.
I was about to ask you.
That was designed back in the 70s, and the reason for that is because you guys may be too young to remember this, but water heaters would literally, the pressure would build up so much that they would literally explode. Okay, so
shoot out that roof.
Exactly. So to prevent that, they came up with the TPV, the temperature pressure relief valve. So what it does is, if the pressure in the water heater builds up too high, it'll pop and allow the water pressure to escape to the outside. If the water temperature in the water heater gets too hot, it again will pop and allow the water to escape to the outside. That too hot would be anything above 210 degrees.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so that's what we look for with the temperature pressure relief valve. So you want to make sure those are working. Normally, you'll have the where the temperature pressure relief valve will expire on the exterior of the home. Normally, it's close to the ground, but it has an elbow on it, and it points directly at the ground. You don't want it to be pointing straight out. Because if it's pointing straight out and it just so happens that the pressure builds up and it pops, a lot of pressure to escape to the outside, and you're standing out there, it can burn you. So that's why you want it pointing down towards the ground.
And then there's a wonderful thing that I see you got, and it should be there in the first place, but you see some of these older homes that don't have them. The drip pan.
Safety pan.
Why is that so? Explain to them why.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, it's really important to have a safety pan, especially when your water heater's in your attic.
Amen, brother.
So the safety pan is just that. It's a safety feature that catches the water in case the water heater were to leak, rupture, for whatever reason, water were to be running out of it. It catches the water and it also drains to the exterior. More often than not, when you see the water heat, the temperature pressure relief valve on the exterior of the home, you'll also see another pipe right next to it that's a little bit bigger. And normally that pipe is the pipe that's from the safety pan.
And please explain how important it is to keep that thing clear of any clutter.
Well, here's the thing. If you don't, and whatever it is that's in the pan clogs up the drain line or covers the drain line, the pan is no good. Because that pan is not going to hold the 50 gallons of water that's normally the size of the water heater.
I'll get you 1 gallon, 2 gallons. You're free. The rest is in your house.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And like I said, if it's in the attic, you got water problems. Exactly. Because now it's going to be throughout your ceiling up there, wherever it's located. I've seen them located in the attic in like a hallway. I've seen them located in the attic over the garage. Over the garage, you may not be as concerned about it, but in that hallway, and if you have wood floors,
nothing worse than the wood floors.
They start to couple.
Nothing worse than that. It's a bad day to
start cupping.
Now the plumbing also outside. We see the older homes, and what about the trees that are right next to the home that kind of?
Well, it's not just the plumbing, but that's another foundation issue. Yeah. You don't want a tree within 10 feet of a house.
Yeah, you posted that was your tip of the day.
It was one of my tips of the day. Yes. If you have a tree within 10 feet of the house, over time that root system can wreak havoc on the foundation as well as the plumbing.
And the plumbing, they go in and the trees are looking for water, so they attach to the plumbing system and all that stuff and get attached and
depending on what type of piping you have, it can actually cut into the pipes if you're not careful.
Foundation and plumbing all in one.
Exactly. So I mean, you have all those things, but that's one thing I always try and put out a tip of the day every day. And that's just a little something for anyone who is interested in different things that come along with the house. As a realtor, a lot of times you can find that really interesting because sometimes you walk through a house and you may not know a lot of the things that are going on that as an inspector we're going to be looking at.
Oh,
But
yeah.
sometimes that tip can help in regards to just teaching you a few things about a house that maybe you didn't know,
Yeah.
that maybe you can point out to your clients.
Yeah, I find it helpful for the people who are in the homes down. It's
Mhm.
something
Yeah.
to look at.
Exactly.
I look at the tip of the day, and sometimes I share it.
Mhm.
But I love the tips of the day because
Well,
you
great.
just never know.
Yeah.
This is not my area.
Mm-hmm.
I don't claim it to be.
What's
I don't
the tip
claim
of
to know
today?
if the tip of the day.
On Facebook, I do a
I mean,
tip
what
of
is
the
it
day.
today? What's today's
The
tip?
tip of the day was
I can show
trees being close to the home.
Mhm. We were just talking about that. Yeah.
So
And
Yeah.
that sap and that roof. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that tree sap hitting that roof. You know, I don't know what you want to call when those leaves drop it,
Mhm.
or when it's scraping the shingles.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh,
It
man.
cuts down
I mean,
the life expectancy of
exactly.
shingles, all that stuff. And like you said, the sap, all that stuff starts ruining everything up there. So you have to be really careful when it comes to trees. I know a lot of times people buy houses based on because they want the mature trees,
Mhm.
but the
Mhm.
mature trees you have to
Let them be
name it.
mature away.
Yeah.
over there, like
Yeah.
away from the
Over-
home,
over there.
on
Yeah.
the acreage over there.
You got to be willing to maintain it, and that is cleaning out the gutters when the trees
Amen.
fall off. Matter of fact, that was one of my tips. Also, you got to clean your gutters off frequently.
You'll see
Ooh.
sometimes the gutter pulls from the home. All
Mhm.
that water that's
Exactly.
sat there now so heavy, it starts pulling away. You're like, get up there.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've
And then
seen.
people think they're so smart because they get these little leaf guards. I'm like,
Yeah.
but you eventually got to kick them off the leaf
Yeah.
guard.
Yeah.
You know,
But not only that, but sometimes it'll hold water because the downspouts have been clogged.
there you go.
So now the gutters have started to rust through.
So
So-
how about I've seen plants growing in some gutters.
Oh, I've seen it too. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a little flower
Yeah.
up there.
Has-
Like, it's nice, but
It's not-
that's not where it goes.
Not part of the-
It's not a potting.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
You don't pot your
It's
plants.
you can't do it. No,
They're growing
it's
spinach.
Hey,
up
I've
there.
seen
You
I've
start
seen
doing-
that though.
not
I
a
really
good
have.
DIY project.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, let me ask this: do you deal with any solar panels out here?
I mean, we see them occasionally, but that's beyond the scope of what we do.
Okay.
I don't inspect them per se.
Okay.
But yeah, it's all.
I was wondering if it was part of the inspection. When you saw
No,
them. So you just
that's-
they're obsolete.
Well, no, I'm not saying they're obsolete. I'm just saying that that's beyond the scope of what we do
Okay.
in regards to home inspections. That's not a normal inspection chore option.
I'm assuming it's going to be more prevalent because they're starting to move this way. They're
Mhm.
really pushing solar panels. A lot of
They are.
California companies.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, one of my neighbors just got them. So yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and you know if it saves money, I'm all for it.
Hey,
I'm all for it.
Why not?
Yeah.
the smartest solar panel I've seen so far is for this automatic gate
Uh-huh.
that opens up, and they have a solar panel. Like, we don't have to put any electricity in it. That little panel takes care of everything for us. I'm like, hey, that makes sense.
So it stores power.
It
okay.
has a little, but it has a little thing there. It's
Uh-huh.
like almost like a battery.
Okay.
And it's charging that battery.
Okay,
It opens
gotcha.
and closes. And
Okay.
they have one that also is supposed to be heating the pool, which
Mhm.
is pretty cool. I was like, all right,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
saves you some money. you
It
know?
does. Hey, every penny saved, is a penny earned.
Exactly. So let's go forward. What else do you look for in your inspection? We went to the big ones, the big dogs we've nailed out. But
Mhm.
what else are you looking for in a home?
Well, we talked about the electrical, we talked about the roof, we talked about the foundation,
Mhm.
heating and air conditioning, all the appliances in the house. Those are the important things. Okay. Now, also, we're going to be going through all the receptacles in the home. We talked about the electrical, but now just getting more in detail. We talked about GFCIs and where they belong, but all the other receptacles in the home also that we have access to, we're going to also inspect those.
Mhm.
Now, the reason I say the ones we have access to, because if the home is occupied, I'm not going to be moving the couch out of the way to test the electrical and all that. So that's why I say the ones we have access to. Windows, we want to open and close all the windows again that we have access to. And we also want to look for windows that have what are called lost seals. Now, to explain that, when a window is first designed, a dual pane window is first designed, it has two panels, it's been sealed shut, and argon gas has been added. That helps to provide a proper barrier between the interior of the home and the exterior of the home. But now over time, again, Texas with our homes shifting and moving, sometimes that seal cracks allows the argon gas to escape out. But worse than that, it also allows moisture to come in. So
That's
sometimes,
why you see it look like
exactly,
really
what you'll do is sometimes
cloudy.
you'll see the little white spots,
Yeah.
or you'll even see moisture droplets inside that's on the window panes. And what happens is that water is in between the panes. So you can wipe from inside the house, you can wipe from outside the house. You won't be able to get rid of the water. So what happens is that moisture that you see in there then dries up and becomes that little white dot. You start seeing little white dots over it.
Yeah.
And over time, when it does it enough times, the white dot starts looking like a cloud, and then you won't even be able to see through the window. So it just happens that's a long process from getting them installed to having the seal broken that allows the moisture in to getting to the point that you have a cloud. So, but obviously over time, the efficiency of that window is dropping.
Now, I do want to preface this because when we get a report from you, it's like 18, 19,
18,
25,
27.
30, 60. I mean, it's a lot of pages.
I'll be honest with you. My average report is more like about 35 pages. Okay. Now, with that being said, a lot of it also is going to be pictures. I'm putting pictures in there to explain what it is I'm talking about. Because again, I know my clients don't look at reports every day. And some of this stuff, they're like, what is he talking about? That's why it's really important also for the client to come to the inspection. That way I can show them visually right there on the spot what it is I'm talking about so that they can see for themselves. But then also I put the pictures in the report so that sometimes you can look at the picture and say, oh, okay, that's what it is. That's what he's talking about when he says this is not working properly or whatever the case may be. That's why it's so important to have so many pictures in a report.
But I wanted to put that disclaimer out there because, I mean, they get these reports and they say, I got to do it. Oh, we can't find it. Everything's wrong. Please help.
But let me tell you, I'm going to write down that the door is missing its door stop.
There you go.
I'm going to write
exactly the stop itself.
Yeah, exactly.
If the door stop is all we need to close this deal.
Exactly.
Don't worry, I've already installed it.
So it's my job to point out every little thing that I see, because as a potential buyer, again, I don't know what it is that you look at and say, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't know about that. I want to make sure that I point out to them everything so that they know moving forward how best to make the decision. Because what I'm there to do is tell them, basically give them a report card on the house. So I don't give it an A-B grade per se, but I let them know what's going on with the home so that they can decide for themselves.
Provide the data. I mean, that's what you do. And as I said to anybody, and I keep it very simple. When you buy a new car, if we really went through that whole car, I'm gonna show you things that are wrong with it. You got a seat that's got a little cigar hole in it. But it's a used car. I said new. That was my fault. It's a used car. A used car, what you want to know is that engine, that transmission's working well. That's really what you care about.
Right.
Because I don't care if you had perfect leather seats and the interior was kept perfect, but the engine's not working.
We're done.
You got a nice big paperweight there that you can sit in. You can that LeBron James commercial when he sits back in the leather seat way back and he's watching TV. You got that. Right? Exactly. Very expensive leather seat. But what we care about in the scenario of the house is pretty much the same thing. That engine, that transmission is working. I say that engine for me, I mean, it's what you build your house on. The pillar, right? You have this story about the house in the sand, the house in, what was it? Wood, and then
the three pigs.
The three pigs. So
straw.
We care about the bones. If those bones are fine, then we don't have much of an issue here. If it's a doorstop. I will survive.
I promise you.
It's like I said, I'm going to point out every little thing. If a window has two locks, but one of the locks is broken, I'm writing that up. Major things like the air conditioning not working. Okay, you want to know that now. Or let's say the air conditioning is working fine, or rather the furnace is working fine, but it has what we consider to be a safety issue in regards to like a flex line going through carrying the gas into the unit. But now we look at that as being a safety issue. That's something that I want to point out to you. Now, it doesn't stop it from working. Okay, it may be working just fine. However, especially when you have a unit that's suspended in the attic, so when it comes on, it can tend to vibrate a little bit. So with the flex line, it can eventually wear a hole in that flex line, and then you have gas escaping into the attic. Okay, so that's why, something like that where the unit is working fine, but yet there's a safety issue. I want to make sure you're aware of the safety issue. Now, this is probably like $100 or $200 fix, but it's still something that, in my opinion, you want to know about before you move in.
$200 fix or gas going through your house. We're gonna have to take care of that. I saw some in the house the other day. Just blew my mind. I haven't seen a boiler in forever.
Well, in Texas, we don't use boilers. Really.
I found a boiler in Texas.
I was about to say we really don't use them, but occasionally you will see a boiler. But the same thing is true with a basement.
And I've seen a few here.
I say You don't see basements here very often. In the years I've been doing inspection, I think I've done 3 basements. Yeah. And it's not very common because, most times we just don't have them.
And it was so funny. They didn't know how to use it. Like, it's just not getting hot. I said, you put any water in it. She was like, that's why it's called a boiler.
Yeah.
It's got to have water. It was worth the price of admission. You put any water in it. I get it. I see.
Said the blind man.
And the only reason I knew that, I'm making fun of it, but when I used to go to New York in the summers and the boiler stopped working.
Right.
This time my grandparents were older. I was older, and I was like, well, what do I do? Who do we call? They just
call them water. Yeah.
I got this. Turn it on. So,
hey, it's not something that's very common down here. They have those swamp heaters like that they use like in Midland. We don't have them here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It just depends on the area. Certain areas have different things, but for the most part, you're really hard pressed to see a boiler down here in Texas.
And now I'm starting to see these neighborhoods. It's pretty interesting. Septic tanks. And Red Oak, I see septic tanks.
Yeah. Those are the areas that were mostly rural, and so they're building them up now, and they're building them up, but the city hasn't extended. Hasn't extended sewer out there. In some cases, not even water.
Yeah.
So then you got to have exactly darn near.
Go down to the well and get some water.
Yeah. For those of you who can't see, he was doing the pumping. Oh, y'all wrong. Y'all wrong.
Ring the dinner bell.
Give me the fresh water out there, baby.
Yeah. So septics have come a long way too, though. You have a lot of different types of septic systems. Nowadays, you have it, and this is a thing that I want to always tell my clients when you have a septic system. The newest septic systems now have sprinkler systems attached to it.
Yeah.
Okay. So when the septic gets so full, the sprinkler system automatically comes on and spits that water back out.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. So
wait, whoa, what?
Yeah, you got it.
That's not the sprinkler system that you wanted your kids playing in. Okay. Now, normally it's normally a distance away from the house. Okay, because more often now when you have a septic system, you're going to have that little bit of a distance. So it's normally a distance away from the house, 2-3 heads. Sometimes they'll pop up and they'll come on. So that's how.
Yeah.
But it's been filtered. It's clean.
It's clean.
It may smell a little bit.
Yeah.
Smelling
I'm
clean
just telling you. I'm just telling
let
you.
your kids play the toilet water.
Yeah,
They don't
exactly.
let them play in the septic.
No.
Yeah. There you go. So that's one of the things that you got to be aware of. And that's one of the things I always want to make sure let my clients know. Okay, so that sprinkler system on right there, that's what you don't play in.
Yeah.
Don't let the kids go outside and play in that one.
Ooh, we're gonna have some fun.
Yeah.
And we talked about the septics. Okay, we haven't touched on pools, above ground and underground pools.
Now I'll be honest with you, I don't inspect above grounds. And the reason that I don't inspect above grounds is because they are
personal property, by all rights.
Yeah.
It's personal property.
I that's something that now an in-ground pool, I'm going to inspect everything that goes along with that. I want to look at the fountain. Now, think about a water feature on a in-ground pool. The water feature, when it's spitting out, let's say it has coming down the rocks, cascading down, all that, it looks really nice and really pretty. But what I always want to do is go behind it and look, because a lot of times you'll have leaks there. Okay, so that's something that you always want to look at. Also, it seems like 8 times out of 10 times I inspect a pool, we got a leak at the equipment. So it's pretty common to have that leak. So that's something, again, that's one of those things that I'm going to make sure I point out to the clients. Yeah. But it's not something that, it's going to be one of those things where I say, oh my God, not that I'm saying that about anything, but I'm just saying one of those things that you just don't want to, it's pretty common. So it's not something that you want to run from in regards to having a leak at the pool equipment.
So is there anything else that you want them to know before we sign off today? And put your commercial in, man. I mean, you're very knowledgeable. Troy's been very knowledgeul. Good conversation.
Very informative.
So put your commercial in. Anything else you really want them to know?
Well, realtors, buyers, sellers.
Yeah. The main thing is, I truly do believe that an inspection is needed on every home, be it brand new, 100 years old, recently remodeled. it doesn't really matter. Every house, in my opinion, needs to be inspected. Sometimes you got situations where family member is selling to another family member. Even in those situations, to hold down confusion, it's best just to do it, because if you buy that house and then all of a sudden there's a problem down the road, now you got a family issue. So to prevent that, it's best, like I said, to always get an inspection done. Now, for us at Ease Home Inspections, we'd love to help you out. Feel free to give us a call. Our number is 817-909-3254. Again, 817-909-3254. If by chance you want to take a look at our tip of the day, you can follow me on Facebook at Troy Thomas. Feel free to look me up at Ease Home Inspections, Troy Thomas. Be more than happy to follow us there. Again, we give out a tip every single day. Every single day, Sundays included. Yeah,
I share them often.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that. Like I said, we try to be a service to everybody. If you use our services, great. If you don't use our services, hopefully we can still help you. To any realtors out there who have any concerns or questions, if you're out showing a house, you want to give us a call. Again, feel free to give us a call. We'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. But again, we try to consider ourselves to be a full service home inspection company. Anything that you need from us, we'll be more than happy to give. Thank you.
Awesome.
I walked right back in the right time. Troy, you and I got ESP. Well, like always, we love when our guests come on. Troy, thank you a million.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And we hope the show is always informative. We're going to ask questions. And Troy, man, he had to get the gab. He went on and thanks, Troy. Seriously.
I told you before we started I could talk.
Hey, I like it.
You're almost like you and James are running neck and neck.
Here we go.
I mean, I'm just,
I forgot you were over there, LaToya.
Right, no, I'm listening too. It's like, what? What's a CF? What? That's why I stay in my lane. I stay often. I stay in my lane.
We didn't talk about the CSST.
What
is CSST?
That's the new hot topic that's out right now. A lot of people are really concerned about that. Is CSST, corrugated stainless steel tubing.
Okay.
And what that is it carries the gas throughout the house.
Okay.
Now, most of the times, and even now, probably about 50 to 60% of the time, still they're using the hard pipe to carry gas throughout the house.
Okay.
But it's harder to work with. So now they've switched over to what's called the CSST, again, corrugated stainless steel tubing. Okay. It's a flexible line that's normally coated with a yellow coating over it, a plastic coating over it, and it carries the gas throughout the house. It's getting sort of an issue in regards to if a home were to be struck by lightning. The problem has been that they believe that that's causing the CSST to then have little pinholes because of the flow of electricity going through it, and that those pinholes are going to, of course, allow gas to escape out. With the electrical shock that's jolting through the electricity, the combination of the two has been known to start a fire. Exactly.
Yeah, electricity, gas.
Yeah. So that's the new hot topic, and if the house has CSST, it's something that I believe that as an inspector, we want to make sure that we point out to our clients. That's something that's more of the case, and that started in, I believe it was Japan in the 80s. Made it to America in the 90s. So a lot of houses being built from the 90s on can possibly have the CSST in it. So that's something that, again, I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of. Because of the issues, they've now redone the CSST, and they've now, instead, if it has the yellow coating, it's the older one. If it has the black coating, it's the newer one. Okay. Ideally, it's supposed to be thicker. I don't know it. I don't believe it's been around long enough for us to be able to know if it's more secure.
Lightning yet, huh?
Yeah. So that's just one thing I wanted to point out as well.
So sorry. And you said you were going to do a video on that, and what we'll do is we'll put that on the channel. So we're going to watch that when we do it.
Okay.
So there'll be more information about that coming very soon. But Troy, like I said, thanks for coming in.
No problem.
LaToya, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm just taking all this information in so I can relay it, and what I can't relay, I'll just rely on Troy.
There you go. Just give us a call.
I like that. Rely on. See, look at LaToya. But we thank y'all so much for tuning in every single week.
Thank you.
That's LaToya over there.
Over here.
Got your name right this time. My name is James. That was Troy that came on and was our guest speaker. Y'all have a wonderful day. We'll talk to y'all next week. You'll say bye. You'll say something. Say bye.
Make it a good one.